Welcome back to He's a Giant, a pod about all things college football and all things Giants football. I am your host, Sal, with my co-host, Monty. What's going on, man?
What's going on, man? Got a new background. I gotta put some stuff up back here, but no longer just a messy office. We're getting the office going. Painted the room this weekend. Nice Giants blue. So here we go.
Yep. I might be doing some technical upgrades in the coming months, which might improve our sound and stuff. So hopefully things will get better. So I'm glad you're fixing things. We'll eventually look professional. We may not
Yeah,
act
we'll get
professional, but we'll get there.
there.
Yeah. All right. So today's episode, I know people are filtering in now. Late? Who said we're late? Oh, Rossetti. You're right,
Rossetti.
Rossetti. We're late, but we're right on time.
He's on Coughlin time.
He's always on Coughlin time. So we are here again. Our second position group review. Last week we did interior O line. Fairly underwhelming class. Although look out for the centers in the class; they're pretty good. The
Yep.
guard class was underwhelming, and that led us into this class, this group, which is the offensive tackle class, which is a big difference from the interior O line class, right, Monty?
Yeah. I mean, we covered five guys. I mean, just for reference, we had see, what was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys on Dane Brugler's top 50. There is, let's see, five guys in the top 15. And we didn't even go over a couple of guys we went over weren't even on Brugler's top 50 that we just wanted to go over. So it's a loaded class, man. There's gonna be a lot more guys we got to talk about, but even the group we looked at today, I was pretty impressed for the most part.
Yeah. We only picked the five guys from this group, but like we could have, like you said, we could have picked 10. We just happened to pick these five. And it doesn't even mean that we think these are like definitely the best five. These are just that we thought five intriguing guys to go over that were
Mm-hmm.
worth reviewing because we're doing this early in the season. These names are going to change. They're going to change position as the season goes on. Guys declare themselves. But one thing I will say is that they're good tackles here and there are good tackles who could be great guards here. I mean that's typically the case, but I think it's a pretty abundant issue that we're seeing in this particular group.
Yeah. No, I think that will be the case with a few of these guys for sure.
Right. And I mean, I was a little bit disappointed at the interior O line class, thinking, oh man, what a time for us to need interior O linemen. But I felt better after looking at some of this stuff. I'm like, all right, we're going to find some interior O linemen. They're just called tackles right now at the college level, but there are good players there. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. So we will definitely get into that with you and do our usual, our break down the different categories we're looking at. We're going to use the same categories to score them as we did with the interior O line. And we'll get into a discussion about each of these guys. But before we get into that, week one in the books, I was there in Washington and they just played like dog shit.
Yeah.
Terrible. Really disappointing, man. All the good vibes, good preseason. Everybody looked like they were locked in. They show up and they just immediately throw up a stinker. Commanders basically control the flow of the game from beginning to end. Um, and despite that, they only had us down 14-6 with, the fourth quarter, and we had the ball to start the fourth and driving with the ball at the 50-yard line. And I think it was a 3rd and 4, if I'm not mistaken. And we call some stupid play that isn't incomplete. It's 4th and 4. I think 14 minutes left. 14. It's still 14-6 in a game where, you haven't been playing well. You've been outplayed, but you have a chance to come down and score. And you've seen these games before, right? Where a team just doesn't put away the other team, and then somehow that other team comes back, ties the game, momentum shifts quick, and you have a chance to win. I thought we had a chance to go there, and then Brian Dable just inexplicably punts the ball. He just gives up basically, and the Commanders come right down the field, score a touchdown. That was the Debo Samuel touchdown that put the thing away. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know what to say about this. I think people have been dissected this for days since the game. I was just disappointed with the overall preparation of the team, the way they looked
Mm-hmm.
on offense, the way they were schemed on defense, and just sort of what felt like a disjointed team effort. What were your thoughts on the game?
I think what you kind of said there was kind of my, once I got a chance to kind of digest everything, was my main takeaway. It seems like an unprepared football team. I know we're more talented than what we put in the field. Maybe we're not as talented as some people might have hoped we would be, but I certainly think we are better than that, and I think we've shown this in the past, unfortunately. is week one after week one, the exception of that Gable's first year, this country club ass training camp we run ends up leading to just terrible results early. We don't look conditioned like the other teams. We don't look prepared like the other teams. And I do think that the Giants will look better. I have no question they won't that they will look better than what they showed this last week. But that was a very beatable team, and we could have got a win that we desperately needed if we, came into that game simply prepared. And we didn't. And you hit on it. It's everything. There's nothing. I can't blame any particular unit or person. It's blame to go around everywhere, and I'm disappointed with everything. The only people I really take blame away from is I felt like our pass rush is pretty good. Yeah, it could have been better, sure, but Brian Burns had, I'd say 3 sacks. He had 2, but he also had that holding that ended up that would have been a sack. Abdul Carter looked very good. Kayvon looked good. Dexter Lawrence, he didn't look like his normal dominant self, but he looked good. But yeah, disappointing, man. And we talked about it a little bit last week, but said if this team doesn't win games, people are going to come for Dable's head, and you already see it. By halftime of week one, you saw people coming for Dable's head.
Is there a knocking sound that you hear? Okay, went away. All right, sorry about that. Yeah, I mean it's bad. I mean I think that was the one thing we hoped for, right? Is that there was at least a good effort and a good product on the field. So the one thing we're not talking about is like how shitty the team looks. That's the one thing we said, whether you agreed that Dable needed a certain win total to survive or not. The one thing we all ubiquitously agreed on was that the team has to just look good and look prepared and be a competitor. And that looked the furthest thing from a competitive team on Sunday, and that just spells disaster very early for Dable. Not good, for the 4th year in a row his team comes out looking bad to start, week one against Tennessee. They pulled out a win that first year, mainly because Saquon Barkley went berserk in the second half. And then they got a missed kick, right? At the end of that game in Tennessee. But otherwise, they've looked really terrible for all these years here to start the season. It doesn't bode well when your team is not as prepared as the other side, to start the season. He's on the hot seat. I think there's no doubt about it. He's very much on the hot seat. He's fighting for his job, and his team looks like that. We can get into all that stuff. I mean, Shane Bowen, very disappointing, really disappointing performance. I have a lot of issues with the way they had the players aligned and the way they performed, especially on second and third and long when they got the Commanders into really precarious positions with some sacks and good plays, and then they would just give up these massive chunk plays. Just didn't seem like a good effort from the coaches to the players. And Brian Dable, like I said, he's in trouble, and Russell Wilson did not look good. He is. We're officially on Dart Watch. I mean, it's come faster than I think I thought it would, but it's here, right? I mean, I think part of it is how well Dart played in the preseason and how good he seems to be already at picking up the offense, according to many reports. But just, this is that sort of disaster scenario where, like, oh my God, the team looks so bad and Russell Wilson looks cooked. Are they're just better off putting Dart in for the sake of just winning football games? And I think we're here. We're very
Yeah.
close to being here. And I think you can argue at this point that they have a better chance to win games the rest of the season with Jackson Dart there if Russell Wilson looks anything like what he was on Sunday. So a lot going on. It got late real fast for the Giants and this coaching staff. And personally, I'm now in the just play Dart camp. I really am. Mainly because I think he probably is our best quarterback. Now, Russell Wilson will start this week against the Cowboys, but Monty, if they're down more than a score at halftime, if they have 3 points or 6 points on the board at halftime and the offense looks anemic, uh, personally, I do think Jackson Dart's coming out for the second half. What about you?
I don't doubt that happens. Brian Dable is a very emotional and a very impulsive person. I could certainly see him make that move. I think it's the wrong move. Not that I don't think that we can't start Dart. I thought a good point Dan Duggan brought up, I think it was today, was essentially like if they didn't believe that Dart could start, he wouldn't be QB2 because he would be a rolled ankle away from playing anyway. So if they
Right.
didn't feel like if they weren't comfortable having him out there, then he wouldn't be QB2, which is a fair take. But my overall take is okay. Let's say he is. They do believe in him. He's great. Cool. Then I'm fine playing him wherever. But I want to play him for the first time with a full week of preparations with the ones, which he hasn't had yet. He has been working with the second, most of the second team, some third, and like a little bit of ones the entire time. I want at least one full week with the ones before you're going to start this guy. So I think that's what I want to do for you. So I hope that they stick out the game with Russell Wilson and don't put Jackson Dart into a shitty situation like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I want to see how the game flows, to be honest. I think we're at that point where like the flow of the game, how the offense looks, how the team looks in general. If they come out flat again, it's a problem. So we'll see. I'm not opposed to playing him. I'm personally all pro playing him at this point because I just feel like you need to, at the end of the day, Monty, like the calling card for Brian Dable all these years has been right or wrong. This is the guy who's going to develop a young quarterback, right? You got to
Mm-hmm.
see him with his young quarterback. And we are in year 4 when we were banging our heads against the table that it took all these years to get the guy that he wanted because they wasted
Mm-hmm.
all these years. But here we are in year 4 with his back to the wall. Here's Jackson Dart, and you could have, there was a world in which they drafted Dart, and he just looked terrible in the preseason. He just looked like a rookie who wasn't ready. That's not even on the table then, right? Well, they
Yeah.
drafted him. They love. I mean, Dable particularly loves the kid. He looks really excellent in the
Mm-hmm.
preseason, and every independent, analyst who's out there, like ex quarterbacks, you name it, guys are looking at him saying he looks ready. I mean, he's doing things
Mm-hmm.
that NFL quarterbacks do. He should be playing. Baldy was out today or yesterday saying, play him. He's their best player. A lot of guys around the league and people I respect are saying, just put him in. He's
Mm-hmm.
ready to play. And I think at the end of the day, you want to see what Dable can do with a young quarterback as far as long as possible. I don't know how many games Brian Dable has left as head coach of the Giants. And I say that in all seriousness because at this point, he needs to win games. He has to turn this around and win football games, like you've mentioned the whole time. And the way, and I fought back a little bit. I thought they would look respectable. They can't look like this, man. They need to
We've
win.
we've gone from talking about a year 5 of Dable thinking that's a likelihood to firing him midseason. That's where you've gotten to.
Not nothing. He's going to get fired midseason. I'm just saying that my assumption always was that with the additions Joe Shane made in the offseason
Mm-hmm.
and what appeared to be a philosophical change in how they're going about adding players to the team, the way things looked in camp, I really thought they were going to look good on the field, right? I thought they
Mm-hmm.
were going to play better football. Would you agree with that? Like going in, that was your assumption?
Sure, but I wanted to believe. I wanted to see it before I believed it.
Fair, but you probably expected their portion of it to at least look better, right? Like they were going to be more well
I
coached and
I
ready to go.
expected our quarterback situation to look much better last year, even if it wasn't going to
And
be
and
great.
they you could argue that Sunday that was the worst this team has looked in the Brian Dable era.
Yeah, I mean, up there.
It's
But
right up there with the Dallas game
yeah,
from a
that
couple of
Dallas
years
week
ago.
one is pretty
Right.
bad too.
The Jets game a few years ago. Like this was an all-time stinker, And
And we still had a
so
chance to win.
I know. But that's where I'm coming from. I'm not saying like, oh, he's gonna be fired mid-season. I'm not arguing that at all. I'm just saying that if the team looks like this and is this flat and gets zero from Russell Wilson at
Mm,
quarterback, all of a sudden, what outs does Brian Dable have left? Right?
yeah, I
And,
was.
and his only outs are winning and making Brian and winning specifically with Jackson Dart looking good. The sooner they get to that, the better.
Yeah, the comment threw me that I thought you were saying it was how many games. I don't know how many games he has left, but I guess you just mean like before he's dead in the water.
I don't think that it's assured he's going to last the remaining 16 games.
I'm
It
pretty
depends.
confident he will.
I think there's like a really excellent chance that he will, but
Nothing's
I don't.
changed for me, by the way. I feel the exact same way about Brian Dable's job security now as I did last week.
No, and that's fair. But what I'm saying is, if they continue to look like they did this past Sunday, I don't think I can feel super confident he's lasting all the way through. I'm serious. Like I think you can't have your team looking like that week in, week out after 3 years of what we just witnessed.
I don't think you can let him draft a quarterback and then fire him mid-season.
John Mara has done capricious things before, man.
Might have been an
Uh,
argument I've been making, but I think that's an extra level of trying to fuck up a quarterback.
don't get me wrong. I'm not pushing for this, right?
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm just saying that I fear for Mara's reaction at this point if the product
Hmm.
continues to look this bad. Because you remember, Mara had to fight off the fan base last year to keep bringing these guys back.
Yeah.
He had to step in front of the bullet for them, basically, right?
Yep. 100%.
And
Yeah, he
and
hasn't
now
liked the
he's sitting
Bears.
and he's watching this crap now. And he's like, are you for fucking real? Like, I brought you
Mhm.
back. I stepped in front of the bullet. I defended you. I gave you money to spend. You told me you'd fix it. And the first freaking week, this is the shit show you put in front of my fans. Like, I guarantee you his patience is running thin real fast. And I don't know who it's for. I'm guessing a lot of his initial ire is going to be directed at Shane Bowen, who he seemed specifically perturbed with last year.
Mhm.
But I don't think Dable's going to get fired in the season. I'm just saying that if they keep putting up stinkers like this and look hopeless, I don't think I can be assured that Mara will last the whole season with them. That's all I'm saying. That's how bad that was on Sunday.
Sure, but it's going to be different with a rookie quarterback. Even if it's bad, you can excuse away a lot of bad with a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, you've made this point 1,000 times. A rookie quarterback doesn't save your job.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't save your job after the season, but I think you'll make it through the season.
I agree with you that odds are he will. All I'm saying is it can't look like that because
Hmm.
every
It
week that
will.
looks like that, that discussion is going to start getting worse and worse. So
Yeah.
anyway,
I mean, it's not going to look like that every single week, but I don't know.
here's the good news. We're going to win on Sunday. We're absolutely going to walk into Dallas and win this football game. I'm feeling very confident about it. How about you?
Sure. um, Russell Wilson needs to win if he wants to keep his job. We were talking about this. I tweeted out similar. The way I look at it is Russell Wilson wins this week. He has his job week 3 and week 4 at least. If he loses both those games, and even if he wins one, they still might look for a soft landing versus the Saints with Jackson Dart. But if he wins, he'll definitely get those next 2 weeks, in my opinion. They won't it'll take it won't they won't force him in before then. But I do think week 3 is very much on the table if he loses this week.
Yeah, I would say this week is on the table, depending on how the first half looks in terms of Dart coming in.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. I really feel like this is. I think Dable's chomping at the bit. And here's my last bit of evidence that I will use to say there's a chance that we see a quarterback change at halftime, potentially, if they're losing and their offense looks hapless again. For 3+ years, Brian Dable has been a complete asshole to the media, right? The Belichick school of like,
Yeah.
go fuck yourself. I'm not telling you anything. I'm just gonna stare at you like I'm in like like in a blinking contest with you. I'm not giving you shit. He comes out today and he's all buddy buddy with the media.
Mm-hmm.
He was the most loquacious he had been the entire time he's here, comes out, gives an injury report on all the players, an update without it being asked, goes into details about all three phases of the Dallas team and what they're looking for and the specific players that they have to, they have to watch out for. Long, long, long description of the week ahead and the game plan and what, the things they have to do. Like all the reporters, the beat guys were all shocked. They were like, he's never done this. Like he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't do this stuff. And I'm reading this and you know what I'm thinking? He's hearing footsteps. He's feeling it. He's in trouble and he needs friends right now in the media. That's what he's thinking. I got to change something. I'm going to change my approach. It's getting late for Brian Dable. I think he senses it.
It's funny because like there's that whole shit that was coming out with like they're not letting the media talk to like Jameis and Dart. And me as like a fan, I'm like, wow, like whatever. The beat's all crying about it. It's like wow, wow, wow. I don't give a fuck that you can't talk to our backup quarterbacks. Find a real story to talk about. But from the other point of view, Dable, you're just making enemies for no goddamn reason.
Are you muted?
Am I muted?
Oh no, I thought you got muted for a second.
No.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
he's just making enemies for no reason.
yeah. But here he is trying to make friends.
Mm-hmm.
First time he's trying to make friends, and I'm thinking, why is he trying to make friends now? He's he's looking for a little help, man. He's looking to change things. I'm old enough to remember Tom Coughlin doing this shit. In
Mhm.
2007, he was a complete dick for all those years to the media. He was a jerk to the players, and then in 2007, with his back to the wall, creates the Players Council, becomes more player friendly, becomes more media friendly. All that stuff. They started 0-2 that year, by the way, in 2007. He was in trouble. People were calling for his head. People were calling to get rid of Eli. It was bad, and then
Yeah,
they just turned it around, right? So I'm just saying, like when guys' backs are to the wall and you can sense it, they start changing their behavior. Things start happening. They start making moves. So I'm curious to see what will happen. But by seeing that today, I started thinking, oh, he's not going to be conservative about anything here. I think he's ready to make the move to Dart. I think he's ready to bench anybody at this point and do whatever he has to do. So I'm
yeah,
very curious how he handles this stuff going forward.
yeah. I
Uh,
guess my overall view, just because we kind of skipped over, you mentioned it though, there is my overall view on Dart is I do not care if they feel he's ready. Cool. I'm cool with playing him. But I also don't want them to play him just because Russell Wilson's shitty. I understand that like Brian Dable's motivations are different than mine, but as a fan, I want to see them play Dart when they feel he's most prepared to play and they think he's ready to go out there, which is not halftime of a game where he didn't get any reps with ones. And if he's ready week 3, then cool, but like, it better not because Russell Wilson sucks. It better be more that okay, this is our excuse to put him in.
I think they should feel comfortable starting him this week if they're ready to make him QB2, which they already have. They're
Mm-hmm.
saying that he can come in on a dime. I think they should be ready to start him personally, but I don't. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But I'm just saying, I think that their trigger is going to be relatively quick here. If things look bad in the first half, if they look okay, they're probably not going to do anything. But it's worth watching. I mean, it's definitely worth watching. Just to see how the drama might play out here. We could go into some of the other stuff. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I mean, offense anemic, atrocious, nothing to see. Quarterback was terrible. Offensive line was terrible. Receivers didn't do much. Theo Johnson is not good. No matter what they try to tell us, I don't know what to say about this offense. What are your thoughts on it?
It needs to be better. I mean, the run, we had no push in the run game at all. Our run blocking was horrendous. Um, we were playing the Daniel Jones offensive play style. There were stupid play calls. We were going empty on like 3rd and 1.
Very Joe
Russell
Judgy.
Russell Wilson's bailing out of uh, healthy pockets. There was nothing really good to say. Malik Neighbors is good at football. That's about all I got for you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and the way I looked at it was that offensive line looked awful. But part of me at this point is like, am I going to sit here and blame 10 players, or do I think there's another problem, right? Like, are they all terrible at football, or is this more like your coaching, preparation, scheme, whatever it is, there's a problem there. And I think it's more likely the systemic issue as opposed to each individual component part being completely unplayable. I'm not saying those guys are good, but I doubt they're all this bad.
I also think the pass protection is being heavily overrated with how bad it is. We've seen how bad pass protection can be. We've seen it over the last few years. It didn't. It looks way worse than that. It didn't look good. I'm not trying to say it looked good last week, but I've seen it look a whole lot worse. In the run game, that's some of the worst run blocking I've ever seen.
Also, with some of the worst run scheming you've ever seen. There's no creativity, there's
Yeah.
nothing, and I don't know what's going on over there. They need to get it fixed. At this point, players have to produce, the coaches have to figure it out. I don't think there's any cavalry of saviors coming to help these guys. There's some guys on the practice squad who might get a shot to play, but other than that, I don't know who's coming to help them. Um, on the defensive side, you saw what you wanted to see from some guys. I think personally, I thought Kayvon Thibodeau had a very good game. I think
Mm-hmm.
he was really good at setting the edge, stuffing the run, getting pressure. He owned Josh Connerly. He was driving Laramie Tunsil back a bunch of times with his arm. Like he was strong with his leg drive. Brian Burns looked ridiculous as a pass
That
rusher.
was one of his best games I've seen.
Yeah, as a pass rusher at the very minimum.
Yes.
Abdul Carter didn't get the reps that I thought he would get or should get. He still, had 4 pressures. They're still learning how to use him. And it's been disappointing how Shane Bowen has used him. But Overall, man, I looked up, I was watching that game from, I mean, I had decent seats, and I was watching, and on big plays, I see Dexter Lawrence lined up as a three tech, and nobody in the A gap, nobody even in barely anybody like in the B gap other than, I mean, Lawrence is like shaded almost to like four eye, and I'm thinking, what the hell? Like, what is this alignment? And and Jaden Daniels just sees that, runs right down the middle,
Every time.
and
Every
like
time you just
like
easy.
what, but what are we doing, right? Dexter
Mhm.
Lawrence, we did this with Patrick Graham, or he did this bullshit with Dexter Lawrence. Wink comes in, sticks Lawrence where he belongs at nose tackle. He dominates the NFL for freaking 3 years playing like that. Now we have him doing this bullshit again. Like, what's going on?
To be fair, to Bowen's credit, Dex did have the best season of his career underneath him last year before he got hurt.
But he didn't do this stuff that much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know what they're doing, but they need to get it fixed. That's all I'll say. There's that the talent on the defensive side is way better than we just saw. That's
And
on Bowen.
they had them in, third and long, second and long, and every single time they converted. It was ridiculous.
I have a conspiracy theory about the defense. You ready for it?
What?
I didn't tell you this.
Maybe,
Okay.
I don't know.
Um, so John Mara went out of his way at that end of season presser to basically shit all over Shane Bowen and his defense. You remember that, right? To the
Mm-hmm.
point where we all thought Bowen's getting fired, and he doesn't get fired. Um, Then Joe Shane goes and invests a crap ton of money and resources in the defense. He spends a bunch of money on Javon Holland, a bunch of money on Paul Senadebo. He takes the third overall pick and uses it on Abdul Carter, uses your third round pick on Alexander, who we're disappointed was basically a healthy scratch. But he put a lot of resources into the defense. And he signs guys like Roy Robertson Harris, Ledbetter, who got cut. Um, Loads up the defense with as many guys as he can get, brings in guys like Chris Board to be backup linebackers who are, good players, useful players, uh, to hand to Shane Bowen to load up the defense. He got that. I mean, Bowen got most of the assets, almost all the assets in the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
After Mara
Oh
said
yeah,
what he
the
said,
offense is no different.
right, the offense, other than getting the new quarterbacks, is essentially the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and Marcus Bow, essentially, and Cam Scatterwood, those three guys.
Mm-hmm.
But the resources to defense were ridiculous. Like almost everything went to the defense, and they look like that where they're giving up huge chunk yards, and their best players are not on the field, they're out of position, and they look hapless at times. I think Bowen is really in trouble. Like I think if there's going to be somebody in season who could get fired, I think it's Bowen if he throws up another game or two like that. And here's my conspiracy theory: the Giants signed. Well, the guy they made the scapegoat on defense last year was actually Jerome Henderson.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what the whole story behind all that was, but he was let go, and they replaced him with Marquand Manuel, the secondary coach who came from the Jets. Manuel is a guy to watch out for. He was a guy who came up as a coach under Dan Quinn in Seattle. He was an assistant on that Legion of Boom team. When Quinn got the head coaching job in Atlanta, he followed him there. He was defensive coordinator in Atlanta. He was on that Super Bowl team as a DC, if I recall. That in, I think 2017, whatever year it was, 16 or 17. Um, Bounces around a little bit, but ends up spending 4 years with the Jets as a secondaries coach, most of which was under Rob Saleh. So this is a guy who spent a lot of his career training under guys like Dan Quinn and Rob Saleh, and
Mm-hmm.
has DC experience. He's sitting on our staff. I don't know anything about what his defensive style would be if he was a DC for us, but if you're John Mara, Joe Shane, if this keeps struggling, like if this defense doesn't get better and Bowen is a problem, my conspiracy theory is that Manuel is like a built-in replacement who's been a DC before, who they could just elevate to the position.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I think that's a solid theory. I mean, I think everyone can agree that Shane Bowen's seat is very hot right now. He's the easy scapegoat right now, and deservingly so. The fact that nobody was made the scapegoat really, and they only did it for Jerome Henderson, and then, yeah, maybe they brought in a potential replacement, something to keep an eye on.
An in-season scapegoat is what I'm saying.
Yes.
And I think there might be one if things don't get better. So anyway, that's it. They play the Cowboys on Sunday. Let's please get a win. I'm praying for a good football and a win, but I think there's a lot of potential moving parts and drama here. So stay tuned in. Do you have any other thoughts before we jump into this position group?
The only thing I want to say, shout out Diggy. We always save this for a really late show. So while we have some people here, yeah, we're pretty close to 1,000 subscribers. So if you're watching right now and you haven't subscribed on YouTube, please go subscribe. Help us get to 1,000 subscribers. If you're watching on YouTube, like this video, comment, give us 5 stars if you're listening to us later on Spotify or Apple podcasts. But just if you're not normally here for the end of the show, just wanted to get that out.
Yeah, please hit like and subscribe if you haven't done it yet. And if you don't mind, always please, if you're using Twitter, X, whatever, share the link to the episode as it's going on. We have people tend to filter in during the episode, and we tend to have long episodes, so we have plenty of time to get them in.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into the position group. Offensive tackles for the 2026 NFL Draft. We use the same system that we use for offensive linemen on the interior for grading, but as we mentioned earlier in the show, this is a better group, a much more impressive group than the interior O-line. So, um, what you want to jump right into it and go to number one? We have two different number ones, so why don't you do your one and I'll do my one after that?
Okay, so I'll start out with mine. All right. So I didn't look up how to pronounce this guy's name, so excuse me. We are going to go with Francis Mwagoa, offensive tackle from Miami, 6'6", 315 pounds, and he is a true junior. Really, really impressed me when I watched him. Some of the notes I had on him, I thought he flashed really good in independent hand usage and pass protection. I thought it was really advanced for a guy who is only a true junior. I thought he's extremely explosive at the tack and also was really quick out of his stance. Even in pass protection, I saw him fire backwards. Gets a lot of distance very quickly. And very, very strong foundation in his pass sets. He plays with a ton of power, man. Like, he has really physical hands. He's a strong drips, and he just controls defenders once engaged. Really sturdy anchor and pass pro. I don't really ever see him driven back. I thought he worked really well to the second level. I thought he showed a good mobility when he did that. Consistently finishes blocks. He plays with that mean streak. And I thought he extended his arms well to, keep guys off his body. But I'll say, weigh that into the negatives. I don't know how long his arms actually are. They did look on the shorter side to me. I think he used his arm length. I thought he used what he had well, but he didn't look like he created this big separation between him and the defender with his extended arms. So, that's something to keep an eye on. That can certainly hurt you with, projecting you to tackle in the NFL if it's too small. I think it's overrated if it's, 33 inches or whatever, 32, 34. I think that stuff's overrated. But when you start getting down to 32, that becomes a worry. I thought his hands drifted outside the shoulder pads pretty often. I saw it outside the shoulders, on the back sometimes. You're going to get holding calls if you do that. And, overall, just like it relied on power a little bit more than kind of that consistent hand placement. So, yeah, that was my thoughts on him. What do you think of him, Sal?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the guy that if you're going to bet on the tools and the traits, this is the guy to do it on, right? I think the pedigree is there, the size is there, comes from a football family. It's a big Samoan, always good for right tackle. But like you said, I mean, I think you nailed everything. He's strong as a bull. He is very explosive, and I think that he's a bit of a finisher, right? He's powerful. He
Mm-hmm.
wins with a lot of mass and a lot of power and a lot of drive. Um, he's surprisingly pretty decent in pass pro. I would agree with you there. Like, he's pretty good at sticking with guys because part of that is he's very athletic. It's really good
Mm-hmm.
footwork, and I think he uses that well in pass protection.
Great.
Um, the knocks on him I have, and I think I told you this. I see him more as a guard
Mm-hmm.
than a tackle. One you mentioned is I'm not sure about the arm length, and that does affect his technique because he lunges, right? He doesn't necessarily get Like he has a tendency to lean forward a little bit, and
Mhm.
I think some of that is arm length. You'll see him on some of these on some of these blocks where he loses position because of that. Um, and just in general, like his some of his technique issues, like he's quick to a spot, but hand usage, uh, his positioning, it's a little off. He tends to overextend sometimes. So a lot of it is coaching, and I think coachable, but some of it might not be fixable. Like we'll have to. This is the guy we're going to be paying close attention, like you said, to the arm length. If he has like 32-inch arms, we might be like, or 30,
Mhm.
like you might
That's
if
a
he's right at
guard.
that border, right? That's a guard. So I think this is something to look out for, and we don't obsess over this stuff, right? I think we're okay if the guy has the physical tools, the athleticism, it doesn't matter as much. And I think you and I are far more like this stuff is we're more in the camp of if the guy's an athlete and he's strong and he has all the tools and he can play tackle well at the college level, you should give him a chance to play it at the NFL level, much like Marcus Bowe.
Yeah,
But I do think that there are some technique issues that have to be cleaned up here. But in terms of projectability, I think this guy's about as projectable as anybody in this class.
agreed. Want to get
So
into
let
some of these grades?
Yeah, we have similar scores. I'm a little lower on him than you are, but let's get into it. So first category is play strength and anchor. This is just when you're watching the guy, can he drop his ass and just hold the point of attack, and win with power? And
Yeah, more like
he,
strength and pass protection.
yep, and he absolutely the dude's a cinder block. When he gets his feet down, impossible to move. We both gave him a
Yep,
5.
yep.
Uh,
That's an elite trait for him.
Explosiveness and power at the point of attack. This is how quickly he gets out of his stance, how he in run blocking, how fast he gets to a spot and blows up defenders.
And the
Things
power he
like that.
brings when he gets there too.
Correct. And you gave him a little bit of a higher score. You gave him a 4. I gave him a 3. And the only reason I gave him a 3 is I feel like this is where sometimes his technique issues held him back. I don't think it's a lack of explosiveness, but I think his technique would keep him from engaging properly sometimes on these blocks because he'd miss. And I saw that a few times, and I think that's stuff that can be cleaned up. For now, it's a 3. I think it's still average. I think it has a chance to be a potentially elite trait for him in the future.
I'll say, and this doesn't contradict what you said, but I will say one thing I was looking at. Sometimes it was kind of hard to tell because they run a lot of RPO at Miami, so you're not driving these guys downfield, so you kind of have to, you're not bringing all the power. You're kind of just stepping into them, holding, figuring out what that's going to play. So I try to keep an eye on his true run plays and see what he did, and I felt like he came out fast with a lot of power.
Oh, that's fair. I don't think in his case anything I'm negatively scoring him with is something that I don't think could easily be fixed with
Mhm.
coaching. I just want to make that clear because he's still relatively raw as a prospect.
He's young.
Um, he's very young, and that matters.
They do have good
Athleticism,
coaching though there.
they do. But I want to get into coaching options for us as we go through this
Mhm.
episode. We have a name. We'll get in. Maybe we should do that before we get to the end of the episode. Let's go into that name after this guy, if you don't mind, so we
Okay.
are the guys who are here can listen. Athleticism. This is I thought about giving him a 5 here because he's so athletic, but I gave him a 4. I still think he's above average. So did you?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly thought he was bigger than he was. He looks fucking huge. He has one of the fucking biggest asses in this draft. But
Yeah.
he's only like 315. So if he was a little bigger, I might do it. But man, he can move. He can move for a big guy.
Good feet, especially like this is the kind of guy we talk about we're missing on our line. The athlete who can you can use in zone blocking, where he can climb, he can pull. Like he's
Mhm.
got all those skills, right? He's really useful in that kind of a run scheme.
Really comfortable out in space. And another thing I said, like he has probably the quickest pass set in out of these guys we watch for me.
Absolutely. Technique and hand usage. We both gave him a 3. I could have given him a 2. There were a lot of
Mhm.
reps where his hands were kind of not consistent. They were all over the place. They got him in trouble. This is where he fell in my mind, he got into trouble where he would either hit guys outside too much, or he would lose contain and his hands were all over the place and guys would just shed him sometimes. But I think he was good enough where I thought it was an average level. So I gave him a 3. What was your thought on it?
I also seriously considered giving him a 2. I ended up giving him a 3 because I thought he had, like, these really advanced, like, independent hand usage where I felt like he could really control a guy with just one arm, and then when he breaks it, bring the other one. I think that's really important in alignment, but his placement can be really off at times, things like that.
Okay. Pass blocking. You gave him a 4. I gave him a 3. I'll tell you why I gave him only a 3. I thought he could get. He's athletic, but I think he was sometimes too aggressive to try to take away the outside rushers, and
Mhm.
I saw guys use counters on him, and I think there's a susceptibility there to guys who have multiple moves and have counters. I don't think he's quite developed fully in that world. And I think his over aggressiveness and his explosive play style is used against him. So for now, it's a 3. Again, it's a coaching thing, in my opinion, with this guy. I don't think it's like Evan Neal where he was cheating because he knew he couldn't handle the outside rush. I think this guy is plenty athletic and quick to get there, but I think technique wise, he's still a little raw there. So I gave him a 3.
Yeah, I mean, I need to watch more games on him. I only watched like a couple of them, and I certainly that certainly could be the case. From what I saw, I didn't really see anything that worried me. I thought I thought he was so quick in his dropbacks. I thought he handled the bull rushes really well. I thought I didn't see him really get countered and taken inside too often. I thought overall he was just really looked really comfortable back there. But PFF scores and stuff aren't perfect. That there's that out there on the tape. I certainly would believe that. I just personally didn't see it.
Run blocking, we both gave him a 4. I'll let you go into it if you want.
Sure. I mean, a really strong guy who can get movement at the point of attack and really good at climbing to the next level.
Yeah, same. This is, he's a significant asset in the run game right off the
Mhm.
rip.
He's a
Size and
finisher.
frame, yeah, and he's a finisher, absolutely. Size and frame, we both give him a 3. He looks bigger, but he's basically an average size tackle. He's a little, actually, weight wise, a little undersized. He'll put that weight on most likely at the NFL level.
Yeah.
Um, a little bit, slightly undersized. Balance and body control. You gave him a 4. I gave him a 3. Again, it's the same issue. I found him lunging a few times,
Mhm.
and so I gave him a 3. But I think it's different than Evan Neal's lunging. I feel like Evan Neal's lunging was truly a lack of body control, whereas I
Mhm.
think this guy's just overly explosive sometimes, and he needs to dial it back a little bit. I don't think it's a problem that he couldn't fix.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So I ended up with a 3.875.
Real
Really,
high.
really high grade in our system. Yeah, that's a very high grade. You
And
had
I,
a 3.5.
I gave him a 3.5. I mean, I was just more conservative with what I think are, again, his deficiencies to me are just reps and coaching. They're not necessarily the kinds of things that I think are physical limitations that, really can't be fixed. So I can easily see us going back to him, regrading him after the season if he makes a few minor improvements and saying this guy's like a 4, right? I can easily see that jump 4 something right off the rip.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. So we ended up with a 3.6875 as our average.
Yep. All right. Why don't I go over the next guy?
Sure.
So I'll pull up his stuff, but our number 2 player overall, my number 1 is Spencer Fano, tackle from Utah. Spencer Fano is 6'5", though he's a really undersized for a guy his size, 6'5", 300 pounds. But this guy, I love. I mean, I really loved his game. He's athletic. He has good footwork. His technique is very sound. He has good leg drive. He's an asset in the run game. He's a finisher. Um, he he can pull. He can climb. He can man up. He can mirror guys very well. He's very well balanced. I thought he's probably the most balanced tackle in this group. Something I look for in these tackles. Um, and I think he's pretty explosive at the point of attack. And when he hits, he gets a pop. You can see it. Um, there are some issues that show up, like, he's a little undersized, so the anchor is going to be a bit of an issue. He can get walked back by bigger bull rushers at times. Um, and he has a little bit of a tendency to lean when that happens, but overall, I think a lot of his stuff is related to his just he needs to put on weight and a
Mhm.
little bit of mass. Overall, really physical, technically sound, high effort tackle. really, really good in run blocking and pretty damn solid in pass blocking. I think he's kind of a plug and play starter. I think he looks more like a traditional starting right tackle. He can fit any scheme. Um, I do think, like I mentioned, the anchor, the size, are things that have to be looked at. Can he put on weight? Will he put on weight in the NFL? Will that fix some of the concerns about power? But I think right off the bat, if you draft a guy like this, you're getting a big asset in the run game and probably a serviceable to good pass protector right away, with the upside of maybe increasing his size and anchor where he can become a potentially elite all around right tackle. That's how I looked at him. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all the run blocking part of it. I was really impressed with him as a run blocker, and I expected, I don't know why. I forgot what I think I when I read his PFF numbers. Not even I have to go back and check it, but I thought he was more of a pass blocker, and I think that is the case. So I read that expecting, and then I saw this guy. Holy shit, he was just an ass kicker out there. I mean,
Yeah.
like you said, he's a guy who's like the second he gets into run blocking, his legs do not stop moving. They just are firing. He's always just trying to drive. It's like he's just always doing it's their sled workouts on these guys. Buries them, constantly burying guys, and really, really natural athleticism. Whether it's pulling or working up to the next level, I thought it was just a very natural athlete that really popped, especially in the run game. Yeah, you went into it though. Some of my issues with him as a pass protector, I did think he was like solid from like his hands, and I thought he mirrored pretty well. But I did think he had really serious anchor issues. You see that the bunny hop
Yeah.
whenever he's doing, he's constantly and he's constantly doing. He's getting driven back pretty fast. He's trying his best to stay in front of him, but he's getting pushed back. I mentioned he leans, because he knows he's going to get overpowered. He knows that overpower is coming, so he puts in and tries to like get his momentum going forward to get prepared for that happening. And I think him including the strength would fix that. But the issue is, it that can leave him really susceptible to him getting countered. And you see him at times really kind of like these speed guys will go outside and counter inside on him, and he can get beat pretty bad there at times. I thought his feet could look a little faster. They weren't like heavy, but I thought they'd be a little quicker in pass protection. But he was a different athlete as a run blocker. I do think that there's upside as a pass blocker. But I think he needs to get his strength up. He needs to improve his anchor because he's just constantly trying to compensate for that.
That's fair. I think his anchor held up well enough, but I get what you're saying. And I mentioned, like, I think a lot of that is just a size issue. He's young also. He's in his third year starting. He
Mm-hmm.
actually has less reps than Maui Goa. He has about 1,100 reps. I think Maui Goa has like 1,800, something like that. Um, One thing to note about both of these last two guys, if you look at their performances, at least by PFF, stats, they've gotten better every year from their
Mm-hmm.
first year, freshman year starting to now. Like, their pressure numbers have gone way down. Their stack numbers have gone down. Their efficiency rates have gone up. They've both been right tackles, kind of the whole way. Slightly different style players, but what you're seeing is progressive improvement in these kids, and I think that's important. And they have some elite traits, and that really matters when you're projecting a position like this. So, no, I agree. I don't disagree with a lot of some of the criticisms you have. I think I'm a little higher on what I think he could be plug and play right now.
Mm-hmm.
Curious to see how he plays this year, but I mean, this is a guy where with Maui Goa, we want to see some coaching this year. I want to see some technique improvements with his hands, some of the stuff in pass sets. With Fano, I think you just want to see him get a little stronger, right? You want to see that base get
Mm-hmm.
get sturdier. And I think if you watched him and his base was more sturdy and there was less of an issue there just because he naturally grew and figured it out, I think you'd probably view this guy a lot higher. That's just, and I think that is,
Agreed.
I think for a young player, I think that's very possible, right? The
Agreed. And
lift,
I
the strength training, it kicks in.
and like I said, I think a lot of the negatives I see are from what he's doing to compensate for his anchor.
That's fair. All right. Um, let's go into his scores. So, and we talked about how we do this. We can get into that. And I think a lot of the stuff we discussed, we'll just kind of rip through them. You gave him a 2 for play strength and anchor for the reasons you mentioned. I gave him a 3. I thought it was adequate. Explosiveness at the point of attack and power, we both gave him a 4. You can see that off the snap. He's
Mhm.
explosive and he drives people down and out and he finishes them.
He's a people
We,
mover.
yep. Very athletic, great feet, can cover
Mhm.
a lot of ground with his feet. So we both gave him a 4 with athleticism. Technique and hand usage, I think he's good,
It's
not
fine.
great. He's
Yeah.
fine, not a negative. Room for improvement though. I think he's plenty strong. I think he can use his hands for better, and be more of an asset. So I gave him a 3, but this is one where I think like he's a naturally strong kid. He can get this up to like a 4. Um, Pass blocking, you gave him a 2 for the reasons you mentioned just now, I assume. I gave him
Mhm.
a 3 because I didn't think he lost that much, and
Yeah.
I think that like fixable issues. Run blocking, he's elite. We both gave him a 5. That's his strength right away. And size and frame, I think we're being generous. We gave him a 3. He's his frame's a little bit smaller, but I think he's adequate. Could put on more weight for sure though. And
Mhm.
balance and body control. I gave him a 4. I liked his balance a lot. You gave him a 3. Tell me why. Is it just the same thing, the anchor stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see like I think it was more of trying to remember why I gave it to him. Let me check my notes and get back to you. I'm trying to think
Yeah.
what I gave it to him.
Well, while you do that, I'll give everybody our composite scores here. So, I was a lot higher on him. I was higher on him than I was on Maui Goa. I gave Maui Goa a 3.5. I gave Spencer Fano a 3.625. Monty gave Maui Goa a 3.875 and gave Spencer Fano a 3.25. So our composite grade on him was 3.4375. Um, Overall, what does that equal? Essentially, it's a slightly above average NFL tackle caliber player right now, with the projection and the ability to get a lot higher. So that's where we landed on him.
Yeah, I think so. So the balance and body control, yeah, it was just like I said that with like the leaning, overcompensate, you overextended, and like the struggles to the re-anchor. I thought that was mostly what I gave it to him.
Fair enough. All right. Now, I will say, after these two, uh, from a tackle and the projection of tackle perspective, while the other players are good, I did personally think there was a little bit of a drop off. I don't know how you feel. Like I think that they're still good players here, but for me personally, I thought these two were definitely the most intriguing.
From an upside standpoint, I agree. I think there,
Projectability in the NFL. Yeah.
I think there's one more guy though that we graded.
Oh
We
no, no,
both
no. I
graded
know.
very well.
So why don't you go into him, because this is a guy we've reviewed, and I
Mhm,
think he could easily, in our mind, we can talk ourselves into making him OT1,
mhm.
but we've done an episode on him. But why don't you introduce him? Because I think he graded out as our OT3.
Yeah. So yeah, this is actually I think he might
Was
have
he
been our
two?
OT1, to be honest. No,
Was he?
no. Three,
No, no, two.
five,
He might have
six,
been
seven,
two.
five. So
Actually,
he's
you know what?
two.
He
Yes.
he was he
Two.
was two. You're right. He came in as our two. But
Just because I was higher on him than I was uh Fauna.
right. But go for it. Why don't you introduce him?
Sure. So we'll go with our next guy here. A guy who did not make Brugler's top 50 list. So this was a guy that we decided to put on who we reviewed this summer. Jennings Dunker, offensive tackle from Iowa, 6'5, 315 pounds. This guy, if you want the big mauler mullet, Midwest offensive lineman, this is your guy. He's just a physical, nasty player who plays whistle to whistle up front. He's explosive out of his stance. Good snap and timing you can see with his initial quickness, generates movement, really good like hip roll and leg drive. Brings powerful hands. He really, creates that displacement on down blocks and sealing lanes on the edge. Anchors down well versus bull rushes, really able to drop his weight and absorb the power effectively. Good, this guy, he has a wrestling background, so he's a guy who shows good leverage and body control. We said he was above average mobility for his size. Was really capable of reaching the second level and engaging guys. displayed good awareness and displayed discipline on the RPO concepts. Those are some of the things that we talked about. If you guys want to go back and watch our all 22, we talked about that and showed examples of all that. On the negatives, you saw that I probably mostly talked about run blocking there. We definitely had our concerns with him as a pass protector. He needs to improve that this year. We thought his hand usage was really raw. His hands would shoot like way too early and wide and expose his chest. He did like this weird like clap thing that we kept criticizing. Very, very strange techniques he used. He could lunge, and that could be some balance issues. The speed rushers would get him to open up his hips too early. Which ultimately he was struggled recovering the counter moves because he'd overset. He really just had some strange habits in pass protection, and ultimately he might and that's something that he's going to have to grow at. And if he doesn't, he's probably going to have to move inside to guard at the next level. That's something we talked about. But overall, I do think that's something he has shown the potential at and is really high at level, right? Like he's a right tackle if he's a tackle because he's got that run blocker. He just needs to show enough as a pass protector. You have anything to add to that, Sal?
No, you got it. I mean, we had a whole episode. I mean, we could even put the link in it into this episode, the episode we did on Dunker.
I'll
I
put it.
mean,
I'll put it in the videos at the end that come up. So scroll to
perfect.
the end if you want to see it. If you if you don't want to finish the episode.
Yeah, the bottom line is that you got everything. Obviously, he's a right tackle. He's a mauler. He's a big physical guy. What you love about him is the wrestling background of the way he plays with leverage and the way he takes on guys. Right? He wants contact. He thrives off it, and he will win with leverage and power. But there are some issues with his footwork and some of his technique, especially on outside rushes. He's also a fourth year player. He's a little bit older than these other guys. How much more is there in terms of projection, right? Versus the other two? They're all right tackles, by the way.
Mhm.
And so when we talk about right tackles, we like to think about guys who can be really dominant run blockers and adequate pass protectors. That's how I think the two of us look at the typical right tackle, although you could look at it any way you want. I think he meets that criteria. I don't know if he can hold up as an adequate pass protector at the NFL currently with some of his issues, and I do think he might be one of these guys that's destined for guard. Um, but I want to see how he does this year, and if he does show that he's learning and gets better in his fourth year in college, some of those issues that you mentioned are corrected. I mean, this is going to be this is like a long-term NFL right tackle, you know, who's just going to stick there and be a just a building block for years for your run game, and that's how I look at him.
One thing I'll say, I was going back and watching our video. We criticized him for his size because at the time he was like 6'5", 300. I'm looking, Iowa has him up at 315. That's like where we were saying we wanted him to get his weight up. So, that's
Yep.
good.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's get into scores. Play strength and anchor. We went into it. He's a 4. He's an above average strength and anchor guy. Definitely uses his wrestling background as leverage with that anchor to
Mhm.
really knock guys off their legs and their point of attack. Explosiveness. He's a 5. Explodes off the snap. Drives guys backwards. He's a wrestler. You're not beating this guy in a phone booth. Um, Athleticism average, I would say, right? Good
Mhm.
footwork, average, enough to. Would you feel comfortable with him being a consistent pull blocker and second level blocker?
Second level, yes. Pull blocker from the guard position. I'd feel fine with him pulling from the tackle position, but like I wouldn't want to do that all the time.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I am with him too. And this is one of those areas athleticism is probably not going to improve, you know?
Mhm.
So I think you have to view him as a bit of an average athlete. Hand use and technique, same thing. This is a 3 average. There are some deficiencies that you got into. Would you want to? This can improve with some
Yeah.
coaching and
I
some
could I
experience this
could
year.
go to 2 to here. There's some real funky stuff with his hands.
Man, he's gonna need work on it. Pass blocking, you gave him a 2. I was surprised at how harsh you were with him. I gave him a 3.
Yeah, I mean, just there's just a lot of stuff with the lunging, his weird hands where he's always early with them and kind of inconsistent. It's certainly something I think he needs to work on, and I don't think he would come in and be an average pass blocker in the NFL today.
Yeah, but he's a plus run defender. We both gave him a four
Definitely.
there for the reasons you mentioned. Size, frame. He's now I think he's an average at 315. He's an average. He would have been a two when we judged him in the summer, but he looks more like a three at this point.
Hmm.
And balance and body control, that's one of his strengths. That wrestling background, you don't see him falling over. You don't see him losing leverage. He's a four.
Yep, I agree.
And overall,
Obviously.
I had him a little higher than you. You had him at a 3.5. I had him at 3.625.
Hmm.
But basically above average right tackle. I mean, when you put it all together, the only thing that I think separates him from the other guys is some of the stuff that is correctable with him. Um, is not going to be as impactful as with the other guys. Like, with the first two, there's some technique things that when you apply them to their elite traits, you can see a high caliber NFL tackle developing out of the first two. I don't know if you're going to get a very high caliber NFL tackle out of Dunker, but I do think you're going to get a sturdy starter for years to come.
I agree. You're gonna get a mauler. You're gonna get
Yeah.
but he's he's older. He's like there's some stuff that it's just like his hands. Like how has nobody fixed that yet? But and I'm sure a coach can fix it. It's not like some stuff that's crazy that I think you can't fix, but
Yep.
it needs to be fixed.
All right. Who's our four? Let me see. So that was our third. That was number three. Please don't make me do this guy.
No, I
He
think um
he better be our five. Yeah. All right. I'll do the four. You can handle the other guy.
yeah, barely
All
beating
right.
out.
Barely. All right. Our fourth guy here is Blake Miller, offensive tackle from Clemson, 6'6", 315. He is an older prospect. He's a redshirt senior. Um, I watched a few games of Blake Miller. I have to say, Monty, like from the beginning of last season to the end, there was some pretty substantial improvement in his game. I
Hmm.
thought early on in the 2024 season, he was a bit of a raw prospect, made a lot of mistakes, which I saw him start to correct towards the end of the year. I have no doubt he was part of the reason Clemson made a little bit of a late push that got them into the playoffs, because he was an asset in their run game and really protecting Cade Klubnik. Um, his strengths, he's strong. He's a big, strong dude. Good anchor, raw power. He can move guys without problems in the run game. He has a good base. He does have good balance when I would say when you look at his film from the end of last season, I saw a good balanced player. When you looked at his film from the beginning of last season, I saw a guy who wasn't well balanced. But I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he improved there towards the end of the season. He is athletic, not an elite athlete, but he's athletic enough to have good footwork and move. I think this is a tackle that can pull. This is a tackle that can climb. He does well in space. He does finish. He's another Mauler mentality. He likes to finish guys off, um, and he's an efficient blocker, good hands. Has some inconsistencies, but he's plenty strong there. And like I said, he's an asset in the run game. Gets push. Where he's negative, you put these comments in. I agree with them fully. The hand usage is inconsistent. He can miss and then he can end up lunging. He can play with loss of leverage at times. He does not play like the last guy. He doesn't play like a wrestler, low to the ground. He tends to play tall, tends to play high. Um, I think he's kind of an attack blocker. Like if you watch him, he looks for, I think you mentioned point and shoot in your comments, and I
Yeah.
think I know exactly what you meant when I read it. I'm like, yeah, like he's like, I'm gonna run to that spot, I'm gonna knock over who's over there, and if the guy's not there, I'm just gonna knock myself over.
Yeah.
Like I saw that a few times.
And if he gets the edge of him, he doesn't know how to adjust his body. But okay, I'm only a part of his body, so I gotta adjust my body and put my hands here. It's like okay, no, I'm just going to take half your body and then run by you.
Yeah, there's definitely a lack of agility in his game,
Hmm.
right?
Yes, I
He's
think
not.
that's correct.
I think that's how I look at him. He's strong, he's quick, not very agile, and because of that, like I think that's where the footwork issues look a little bit sloppy. I just don't think he's a really great. He's just not a very agile person. I think that does matter at the tackle position.
Hmm.
And he tends to, and a lot of these problems, they extend from the same thing. He overextends, he runs himself out of plays, things like that. Overall, he's strong, he's gifted, he's a mauler, he's another guy who's a big plus in the run game. I think as long as he plays somewhat contained, very good player, really big asset in the run game, can be a good mirror blocker in the pass game. I do think some of his limitations are the agility issues, and they tend to cause him to lean at times. They tend to cause him to lose his spot. Um, how fixable is that? I don't know. I think um, time will tell. But overall, good player. I wasn't enamored with him. I kind of viewed him as more as like a day two type prospect for a tackle. Um, but we'll see, right? We'll see how the season goes for him. Um, what are your thoughts on Blake Miller?
I was intrigued by him, man. I'll go into a little bit kind of we are just talking about like I said, I do think his agility is a little bit weird and off. I think at the second level, I think it's better. I think when you get him out into space, I think he's good at kind of lining up his guy, getting there and making a thing. But when he kind of just has to I'm getting that guy. That's when he has to pick his spot and get there. When he lines it up right, man, he will demolish a guy. But yeah, there's other times he's just completely whiffing on blocks. It doesn't know. I think it's like a body control thing too. Like on top of the agility, he just doesn't adjust well. But this is the thing for me, man. My, you know, looks can be deceiving. One of those don't judge a book by the cover. When I first saw first couple reps, I see a kind of wiry looking dude, plays really tall and almost has like a baby giraffe type thing to him. He's like he kind of looks a little bit clumsy and goofy out there at times. He's almost so it's like it's got a little bit of Daniel Jones to him a little bit from the offensive tap, but goddamn man, when he got his goddamn hands on somebody, he was just throwing motherfuckers out of the club, man. He was just
Mhm.
like every time he puts any hands on a guy, they just like pushing them or just shoving them, they go flying. I was so impressed by his raw strength for a guy that did not look like he maintained it. So, yes, I think that this is a guy who needs to improve overall as a player. Although I do think he impressed me for the most part as a pass protector. Actually, I do think he was a pretty good pass protector. And even like it was so I don't it's hard to describe him because he's good at pass protection, he's good at run blocking, but he has all these flaws within them. But he's just such a weirdly good athlete. And you don't really it's we'll go into the scores and maybe it will be more clear what I'm trying to say, but I was really intrigued by him.
I get it. I think this is where you and I have a bit of a difference in what we're looking at and what our preferences in some of these players, and that's cool.
Mhm.
Um, Powerful, yes. Smaller, yes. I agree. He was, you know, it might be Evan Neal PTSD, right, with some of these guys, but I thought he was on the ground a lot. Like Blake
Mhm.
Miller is a guy like there is not an insignificant number of plays where you kind of look up and Blake Miller's on the ground. And that just kind of bothers me. I don't like to see that from my offensive lineman, certainly not my tackle. So it's just, like, and I think it's for the reasons you talked about. There's kind of like this aggressive lunging and maybe a lack of agility, whatever it is. Yes, he wants to knock guys over and kill them and he throws them out of the club, but there are some issues with just control, body control. And
Yeah, there's
I'm a little concerned about that. Why don't we
I
get
agree with you,
yeah,
and we'll talk about that. I thought it was a bigger problem in run blocking than pass blocking, but I
I thought
agree
it.
with you. We'll get
Yeah,
into
I
the
just thought it
scores
showed
here.
up kind of all around. But when you look at his grades, we were okay with him. I mean, so strength and anchor, we both agree he's strong as an ox. We gave him a 4. Good anchor. Um, Explosiveness, 4. Could have given him a 5 here. The guy jumps off the snap, and when he hits you, like you said, if he gets his hands on you off the snap, you're done. Like there are
Yeah.
not a lot of guys who are gonna
Uh,
fight back against
I'll
that
also
fella.
say the crazy thing with the anchor is again, this dude's standing straight up and nobody can fucking move him.
He's just strong.
Yeah.
He's bull strong. Athleticism, you gave him a 4. I gave him a 3. I just couldn't with the footwork and the agility give him a 4, but I can understand
Mhm.
why you would give him a 4. Technique and hand usage, I agree. We both had him at a 2, really below average. Sloppy, wild hands all over the place. They get him in trouble. I
Mhm.
Unless he gets that fixed, Monty, this guy's going to be a holding machine in the NFL.
Yeah.
Hands are all over the place.
Mhm.
And that's a big concern, right? I worry about stuff like that when I'm looking at these guys. Um, Pass blocking, we both gave him a 3. I think there's more there. I think if he can settle down some of his technique issues, he could be an elite pass blocker because he's so strong. And I can see him just setting back and just taking on bull rushers, and he has the footwork to take on speed guys, but
He
he's got to
gets
improve
it
his
done,
technique.
man. He we're gonna talk about the things that like could hurt him in the next level. We've already talked about like his hands, the tooth, the technique and hands, but like as far as like he does it, he gets it done.
He wins ugly. I get what you're saying. He wins. He just wins ugly. I mean, like the Orlando Browns of the world, right? Like guys who are
Mhm.
just. I mean, they're bigger dudes, but the same kind of idea, right? Like the technique is not great, but they find a way to win the rep. I understand what you're saying.
He just physically dominates people.
We both gave him a 3 for run blocking. Same kind of reasons. Frame, we both
Yep.
gave him a 4. He's a big, strong dude. And balance and body control, we both gave him a 2. I could have given the guy a 1 here. There's just too many times I saw him on the floor, but
Mhm.
he needs to. I don't know if he can work on this, but I am concerned about it.
Yeah, I mean, like the balance was obviously a concern, like especially the run protect. But I think as much was just the body control. Like I said, he can adjust.
He just runs past things. He's like a
Mhm.
yeah, he's like a guy like if you move out of the way,
Like,
he'll just go
and,
flying right
and
past you.
straight up,
Right.
like
Yeah. All right. Total grade. You gave him a 3.25. I gave him a 3.125. He came in at a 3.18 for us. So again, essentially an average level tackle right now. But again, this guy does have some traits where if you can coach up some of the technique issues, I can see him being a plus tackle at the NFL level. Would you agree with that?
yeah. No, I think this is a guy who either is going to come in the NFL. You're going to see on the field, they're going to piss you off like to no end, and you're going to want them off, or get to the right coach, and you're like, holy shit, like we got something here. No in
Yep.
between.
All right. You want to do the fifth guy? Because
No,
I sure as shit don't want to.
no, I didn't hate him as much as you do, so I'll happily do him. Surprisingly, Caden Proctor, offensive tackle from Alabama, 6'7", 366 pounds. This is a big dude. We talked about him in our Freak List episode. He was a 5-star recruit. He's a true junior. He was second team All SEC freshman team. Let's get into some of the Freak List stuff first because we have it here. 274 pounds of lean muscle, 26% body fat, squats 815 pounds, benches 535, power cleans 405, 32-inch vertical jump, and a 9.3 broad jump. So I'll give you some of my thoughts on him. I thought he showed above average athleticism for his size. I know he didn't show like great athleticism for an offensive lineman. For a guy as big as he was, like I thought this guy moved better in like an Evan Neal, for example. Like that's gonna be his comparison, and that's fair. But he reminds me a little bit more of like a Mekhi Becton type. Mekhi Becton was, not the most athletic person in the entire world, but for a guy that big, it was pretty scary how well he moved. Maybe not quite to that level, but that's more. It reminded me closer of that than it did Evan Neal. I thought he had strong grip strength. He could really latch on to somebody, sustain a block. He generated push well at the point of attack and moves defenders with ease. But another guy that play like all these guys plays finisher mentality, consistently driving defenders through the whistle. Doesn't appear lost in space. Some of these guys they get to the next level, and they don't look like they know what they're doing. But I'll put that into the cons a little bit. I feel comfortable with him next level, but sometimes just doesn't have the athleticism to be doing that. Like he gets up there and he gets guys faster, and you just can't really drive him because he can't keep up with them half the time. So again, like a good athlete for his size, but that doesn't mean he's a good athlete. I thought his pass protection, his feet could be slow at times. Struggle to limit recovery versus like quicker edge types. He can struggle to square up defenders and mirror effectively. Um, again, just the recovering counter moves are inconsistent, makes him vulnerable inside move. That's mostly how I saw him get beat. Is somebody play him outside, get him to space out a little bit, leave some hole or leave some room between him and the guard, and they would use their athleticism to beat inside. Um, and so it's mostly, he's a big dude and he has a lot good that comes with it, but as athletic as I do think he is for his size, that for his size is the big part there. There's still a lot of athleticism issues. Overall, I was more impressed with him than I expected to be. I didn't. A lot of times I've been watching these Alabama guys. I'm like, this. I see Evan Neal, and this is just Evan Neal. What I see it right in you, and I do see it, but I see like why I started to like Evan Neal. Like I was like, oh, and I see why I kind of like started like he had some of that stuff to him. I'm not gonna fall for it again, but it's not as bad as what I saw Tyler Booker, not as what I saw. I forgot the name of the guard that we talked about last week. But he was interesting to me. I didn't think he was as bad as some of the Alabama uh, alignment we've seen last couple of years.
Him well, and I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I would just say that like when you watch him on film, there's a lot of Evan Neal there. I mean, this is another Alabama, like big. I mean, he's athletic, yet somehow he plays a lot slower than his athleticism would suggest, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Slow off the snap sometimes. Uh, just struggles, I think, against speed. Um, and he's just a big kind of clunky guy who wins with power more than anything. So I'm pretty wary of these guys. I want better
I agree.
movers at tackle, better balance at tackle, and I think guys like this, as the competition level goes up and the speed goes up, they tend to struggle. I mean, um, just to go into it a little bit, I didn't like him last year, and then this year, like first week of the season, he goes up against Florida State. So last year, just to give you guys perspective, he only had 16 pressures allowed all year, 3 sacks, 9 hurries, 2 hits. He, in his first game against Florida State this year, gave up 6 pressures and a sack, 2 hits, 3 hurries. Just got his clock cleaned by, good speed rushers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think these are the concerns I have with him, right? Like they just, when the competition is really, really stepped up a little bit, I think, especially with speed, he's going to struggle.
Yeah.
And that's where the Evan Neal concerns come in.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I don't disagree with any of the athletic evaluation and the film evaluation. I'm very wary of a guy like this, and he's so damn big, Monty, that like if he doesn't stick a tackle, he can't. Is he
Yeah.
going to be able to play guard? Are we going to have the same Evan Neal situation all over
Yeah.
again? Like
Yeah. DJ Fluker or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, he to 6'7", 366. He's a monster. Like
He's
he
he's the
needs to stick a he needs to stick a tackle. That's the bottom line, right? He has to work at tackle for this to work.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I'm not falling for this guy. I need Alabama, these big Alabama offensive tackles and guards to prove me wrong for I believe in one again. Um, but he's one of the better ones.
We'll see. Let's get into the scoring. Play strength. You gave him a 5. I gave him what I gave him. I gave him a 5 also. I think right or actually hold on. Let me pull up. Uh, I want to make sure I get this correct. No, I gave him a 4 on play strength. You gave him a 5.
Yep.
I could have given him a 5. I could have. Maybe I'm being mean. But explosiveness at the point of attack, you gave him a 4. I gave him a 3 here. I mean, I get what you're saying that he's powerful when he gets to you, but I think it's the explosiveness off the snap and getting to the point of attack that sometimes I
Mhm.
found was a little bit lacking. So I gave him a 3.
Yeah.
Um, Athleticism, he's not an athlete. I mean, he's
Yeah.
tests like an athlete, but he doesn't play like an athlete. We gave him a 2.
Yeah,
Um,
I didn't give him. I think part of it was I could have given him the credit for being a bigger guy there and give him a 3, but I think it's like I kind of was like, all right, I gave you credit there with the explosiveness and the power attack. I got to knock you for your athleticism somewhere, so I just gave it to the athleticism.
Hand usage and technique, we both give him a 2. Sloppy hands, bad hand placement, just inconsistent.
Yeah.
Pass blocking, we both gave him a 2. As again, the big issue with him is he, gets into his sets, he comes out. If you bull rush him, you're probably not getting past him. But
Mhm.
if you go around him, he's probably not catching you.
Yeah.
That's the issue with him.
Yeah, I mean, he can do it decently well at the college level, but the issue is he can. They just you set he set they set you up. They get you far enough from that guard, and he doesn't have the athletic ability to recover those inside counters.
Yep. Run blocking, when he's moving forward, he's good. Very Evan Neal like, right? We both gave him
Mhm.
a 4. And then size stream, he's a monster. We both gave him a
Yeah,
five.
I mean, it's the
Balance,
ideal size if it can work.
right. If he played more agile, I think it would work better.
Mm.
Balance and body control, though, too. He just like Evan Neal's film, he's on the ground a lot.
Hmm.
Doesn't have. He looks like he's wobbling. Like when you watch him, he looks like he's wobbling out there. Like he almost can't control his body size. So not the best body control. Overall score, I gave him a three. You gave him a 3.25. He came in at a 3.125, which basically again average NFL tackle if he can stick there. But unlike some of the other guys, well, this guy has some elite traits in his size and stuff. If he doesn't get some of the pass set speed down, if he doesn't get some of the issues fixed, like I don't even know if this is a guy that can stick in the NFL. That's my concern. Like these guys, it's hard for them to play guard. They need to hit a tackle.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I agree with you.
All right, so that's the five we went over. Um, Again, there are probably five or six other guys we could have added to this list. We decided to give you the five we selected because I think they represent different things that we're looking for out here. The Giants might be in they might be in the market for a tackle. We'll see. I think they're going to be more looking for interior O linemen, but we will see how that goes. Um, but before we stop talking about the offensive line, I wanted to bring up something. Let me see how many people we have in the audience right now. All right, we have the same crew. Um, Sal won't touch me. The guard from Bama. Yeah. No, I'm not. I'm not doing this. So uh, So you and I are both big believers that offensive line play stems a lot from scheme, right? Coaching,
Mhm.
scheme, development. A lot of these guys are big, strong kids with talent, and coaching matters. We saw that a little bit with Brasilo last year. We didn't see it yet this year, but he definitely improved the way some of these guys played. Um, there are some really talented offensive line coaches out there. We see the impact they have on teams and players who go through those systems, like Jeff Stoutland in Philly seems to turn everybody into a good offensive lineman. Mike Munchak's probably the best in the game. He's now
Mhm.
consulting and working for the Rams.
He's not
He's
this
gonna.
year. Somebody told me that, and I looked it
Did
up.
he stop?
Hmm.
Okay, well, he helped the Rams last year.
Hmm.
Um, I'm forgetting the guy's name in Green Bay. Do you remember the coach's name?
Yeah, he's their. I mean, I'm blank. I know you're talking about their offensive coordinator now.
Yeah, right. They promoted him, but their program consistently takes guys who are mid-round picks and turns them into like
Adam
starters. Like
Stenavich.
Stenavich, right? So, like for example, in 2022, the Giants drafted Evan Neal at 7 overall. They drafted Josh Azudu at 63 overall, and they drafted Marcus McKeithen somewhere in the fifth round. The same draft, the Packers took Zach Tom, I want to say in the fourth round, and they took Rasheed Walker from Penn State in the sixth round. And they're their starting bookend tackles now. Zach Tom just got a big extension. In the same draft, they took these guys and they coached them up to be really high caliber NFL tackles. So coaching does matter. Identification of talent obviously matters, but it's not like the Packers knew those guys were going to be studs right away. Look at where they took them, right? They took them on day three and they coached them up. So I think it matters. All this to say, while I like Brasillo, I'm all for adding good, talented coaches to the staff any way we can get it. And a guy we've mentioned on the show before is a guy who has coached the three NFL offensive linemen that I think people would love to have on their team. He coached Frank Ragnow at
Recently
Arkansas,
retired.
right? Recently retired, Frank Ragnow, but
And you can see the difference that Lions O line without him.
exactly. And this guy himself was a center at Michigan, so he understands centers, by the way, and interior line play. But Coach Ragnow at Arkansas goes to Northwestern. He's from Evanston, Illinois, so he's stay there. That's hometown. That's where Northwestern is. He was there for many years. Coaches and develops Rashawn Slater, who you guys. I mean, I know he got hurt this year, but he's an All-Pro left tackle. Coaches and develop Peter Skoronsky, a first-round pick, has a consistently good program at Northwestern. That's kind of their offensive line is a staple of their team for years. Last year, if you guys remember, there was a big Northwestern scandal. There was a hazing scandal. The head coach Fitzgerald got fired. At the end of the season, his offensive line coach, the guy we're talking about, uh, Kurt Anderson, gets fired. And Monty didn't realize this. I found out about it. So Kurt Anderson is the guy we're talking about. He's a great online coach for years with high level production to the NFL in terms of producing talent. and a Northwestern staple from Illinois, probably wasn't going to leave there that easily. He gets fired in the hazing scandal, and now he's working at UMass Amherst as their O-line coach. Um, we need to coach up our interior O-line a lot better. So I know we have an assistant O-line coach, the guy from Iowa, and I know Carmen Bissell is a guy that people like. But dude, I would kill to get Kurt Anderson on this team.
He'd be a great coach, man. I mean, we advocated him for him to be our normal line coach. If I get him as an assistant, I'd be hyped.
I mean, just look at the resume. Ragnow, Slater, Skoronski for one coach. Like that's insane.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, two of those being from really like small schools that don't get these high level recruits.
Yeah. I would like there's no team that needs to fix their online bullshit more than the Giants. And again, it's not a knock on Brasillo. I think it's mostly a talent issue. But I do think there's a lot of scheme, and maybe that scheme issue is coming from Brian Dable. I don't know, but I don't think you could have enough really good coaches for the trenches, working with guys. I don't think. I mean, there's no law that you can't have another O line coach, right?
Yeah,
So if I'm the Giants, if I'm Joe Shane, if I don't, they probably don't pay attention to our shit other than Chris Rossetti. So Chris, if you can go back and tell them
yeah.
the
You
guy,
help Chris.
yeah, the guy the Giants need to target, the guy I would target if I was Joe Shane and Brian Dable. So I'd give a call to Kurt Anderson, the O-line coach at UMass Amherst, the guy who developed Ragnow and Slater and Skaronski, and say, hey man, do you want to be up on in the suburbs of Boston, and then Massachusetts, like coaching, or do you want to be in the bigs and be with the Giants? Screw it, screw UMass. No offense to anybody from UMass, but screw that. Come to the Giants, get our interior O-line players up to snuff. Help us be our interior O-line coach. How about that, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and fix these guys up and get them going and help our team get these guys ready to play football because we need some support. So I'm making the campaign push officially from He's a Giant to get Kurt Anderson hired by the Giants. And Monty's gonna tweet this shit out, and we're gonna propagandize this as much as possible.
I'm all in, man. I'm all in and bringing Kurt Anderson here. Great coach. I think he'd be a huge ad. I can't believe he's not at a bigger program right now.
Here's the fun fact. A year or two ago, maybe when we were talking about, maybe it was 2 years ago, we were talking about Bobby Johnson's crap. Um, I think I tweeted something about how like we needed to hire Kurt Anderson, and I just wrote the name Kurt Anderson. I didn't like look up his Twitter page or whatever, and then I get a notification that Kurt Anderson liked the tweet.
Yeah, he's liked my
Like
stuff
to get,
too.
He's like your stuff too.
Yeah,
So
yes.
Kurt Anderson knows that we're like we're fans of his. We're fanboying him as a coach. So we're gonna get those tweets out, and hopefully somebody notices this from the Giants. Get him on the Giants. That's a good coach. Anyway, that's our offensive tackle episode. That is our offensive line early season completion. We started with interior. We finished with tackles. Do you have any thoughts before we go into the games for next week?
Yeah, I had one thing I want to ask goes. We haven't gone over this in the last past week, but I think it's important to our show as a Giants based draft show. What guys that we talked about today do you think would be the best fits for the New York Giants? So we haven't
Oh,
been
of
doing the
course.
Giants grades.
Yeah, you're right. We haven't. Um, it's Maui Goa. Um, he's the best fit. I told you I think he's a guard more than I
Mm-hmm.
can see him being a tackle. I can I can see he's a lot like Arante Ursary in some ways, prototype wise. I think he's a power right tackle who I think you can pick apart parts of his game, the arm length, some of the technique things where I think he could be an elite guard, but he might stick a tackle. I'm all for that versatility. So I think Maui Goa, if he slides into guard, I have like little doubt in my mind that he's going to be like an all pro. Like he's really good at guard as a guard. So that's who I would probably get. And he's a guy who can play tackle.
Yeah, if we end up having, all things considered, we end up having a decent season. We're picking like in the teens or something. Get him. If we don't end up bringing Jermaine Illuminor back, especially, he's a guy who could play tackle, slide and guard if it doesn't work. There's things you can go over there. But yeah, he could also just play guard for you.
What
You know,
about you? Who would you be eyeing for the Giants in this matchup in this group?
Magawa is definitely my number one. He'd be like my 5 for my Giants grade. But I think the other guy I would say is Jennings Dunker. I think
Yep.
Jennings Dunker is a guy who could play right tackle for you. I think he needs a little bit of time to develop there, but I think ultimately, similar like Jermaine Illuminar, where like, yeah, maybe it won't be right away, but he's going to be or like later in his career. I think he could be a solid right tackle. But I mean, I think to start, you could put him inside at guard and he can play there. And I think that would be a good fit for him.
Yep. All right. Um, we've already talked about the Dallas game. There's no reason to go into it anymore. We just need to get them to play well.
Yeah.
Hopefully, come away with a win here. You want to go into some games for everybody to watch next week?
Yeah. Let's do it.
All right. So I pulled up the schedule. There is a Thursday night matchup, NC State Wake Forest. If you don't want to watch the NFL game on tomorrow night, which I don't know why you wouldn't, it's a good game. You could watch NC State Wake Forest. It's going to be on ESPN. Friday night, there are a few different games on. Out of all of these, the ones that intrigue me the most are K State versus Arizona. That looks pretty good.
Yeah.
And actually, interestingly, Colorado Houston might be interesting. And I say that only because Houston has Connor Wegman at quarterback this year,
Hmm.
and he's actually playing pretty well. He was once a guy who was thought to be a potential big riser for last year's quarterback class, completely flopped at A&M, and he ended up transferring to Houston, and he's having a good season so far. And then the other game is Indiana State, Indiana. Not because it's a great matchup, but I think Indiana's an intriguing team with Signetti as their head coach for another year here, and they have this kid, this quarterback that everybody's really intrigued by, Fernando Martinez, big
Hmm.
traits guy. So if you're watching the quarterbacks, that's a game to watch. You see anything on Saturday that intrigues you?
I mean, definitely. I mean, I think the big one is Georgia, Tennessee, again, SEC matchup, 6 versus 15. That's a good one. Hey, you got my backyard brawl this week with WU versus Pitt. That's an all-time rivalry in college football. Um, you got Miami versus South Florida. South Florida
Two
just
ranked teams.
yeah, they beat Florida last week.
Mhm.
Can they get Miami too? That those are a few of them. I think there's some other games, but what games did you have in mind?
There's one game early that I think is kind of intriguing. It's actually Wisconsin and Alabama. So Alabama has struggled a little bit to start the season.
Mhm.
Um, you know, their quarterback has struggled to hit the ground running. Their O line, like I said, Proctor struggled against Florida State. Um, Kalen DeBoer, it's not clicking yet out there. They're down to 19. And Wisconsin, I mean, Wisconsin might give them a hard time here. I mean,
Mhm.
they're big kind of favorites, but at the same time, the way Alabama's been playing, I'm not so sure they should be. So I'm going to be
I'm
watching that. That's a 12 o'clock game on Saturday.
I'm sure our guy Dan has already deluded himself into thinking he's gonna beat Alabama. Maybe they will.
Maybe, maybe not. But that's kind of it. I mean, there's not, but again, obviously, like you said, the big game is going to be the SEC matchup, Tennessee, Georgia, and
See, it
we'll
looks like
see
we
how that
also
goes.
have there's one more ranked I missed. Texas A&M versus Notre Dame too. That'll be a good one. And maybe Florida LSU, maybe Florida can have a bounce back. I mean, DJ Lagway versus Garrett Nussmeier is an interesting one, regardless.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, yeah. That's a good one actually, just to see the quarterbacks. Lagway is, I think, one of the early favorites to be QB1 in 2026.
Yeah, he had a bad week though.
He did have a bad week, but he's still good, and I think he's fun watching.
Mhm.
Nussmeier isn't definitely in the running to be QB1 this year.
Yep.
So far, looking really good. Although there are a couple of guys nipping on his heels. We'll get into the quarterback episode when we do it later, but I mean, a couple of guys to watch for. I mean, the name right off the bat, the dude surging is John Mateer at
Yeah, he's very good.
Oklahoma. I mean, if you just enjoy watching fun football players, Mateer is about as fun as it gets right now in college. I mean, that guy is fun. So if you haven't watched him, he's kind of like he's become my early season favorite to win the Heisman, you know.
Mhm.
But he could be,
Another
I have issues.
Oklahoma quarterback.
We'll get into his film, when we get
Yeah.
there, because I think he's going to be one of the guys we definitely review. But I love his game. The only thing I don't love about him, I'll just tell you right now, is he's 6'1" and he throws it damn near sidearm. He has like this
Mhm.
three-quarter delivery, and I just feel like he's good with it. It works, but like, is that? you see this, like, are these guys going to actually succeed at the NFL level when you have D tackles just saying they're small and they throw low? I'm just gonna get my hands up and knock this shit down because we see it. It happens all the time when these guys, the smaller quarterbacks, get to the NFL level if they don't have a delivery that is over the top. So it's just something to watch out for. Um, but yeah, I mean, they're fun, some fun players to watch. I mean, I'm not jumping into the QBs yet, but he is fun. Um,
Another one I just kind of know could be a good one. Well, first of all, we've talked about South Carolina as an interesting team. You got Lenora Sellers there. You got I'm blanking on his name, but the wide receiver there. Who's the wide receiver?
Nick Harbor.
Nick Harbor, big physical freak, is actually producing finally. You got Dylan Stewart there at edge. There's definitely some prospects there.
And who are they going up against?
Going against
Diego
Vanderbilt.
Pavia.
Yeah.
Diego Pavia, who is putting on a show again for the third consecutive year and second at Vanderbilt. Talk about fun quarterbacks, dude. That guy, now he's not an NFL quarterback, but he's
Mm-hmm.
one of these guys who gives everything he's got at the collegiate level and is a problem week after week for big programs to face.
Yeah, I could see that being a really good game, despite Vanderbilt being an unranked team and South Carolina being 11. They also have one of my favorite tight ends in college football, and Eli Stowers with Vanderbilt. So,
The
former
line on that,
former 5-star
just
QB.
despite the fact that Vanderbilt's unranked and South Carolina's 11, and they're at home, South Carolina. South Carolina is only a 4.5 point favorite at home.
Yeah.
So Vegas thinks this is going to be potentially a Vanderbilt game. Basically, that's what they're telling you. This is a dangerous
Mm-hmm.
game for South Carolina.
So a lot of
Uh,
lot of fun games this week.
Fun games, yeah, not powerhouse games except for maybe Notre Dame A&M and obviously Georgia Tech. I mean Georgia and Tennessee, but a lot of fun ones here. Anyway, I think that's an episode. You got anything else before we close this out?
No, I was just trying to eyeball to see if I saw any other close lines, but I think that's about it.
All right. In summary, a really good offensive tackle class, some guys who can play guard at the NFL level that I think the Giants are going to have to look at because these are ways to address both positions. I think you and I are both in that camp. Get versatile starters, and this class definitely has those guys. Um, Hire Kurt Anderson. That's the big takeaway. Joe Shane, Brian Dable call Kurt Anderson, offensive line coach at UMass for no reason whatsoever because he got fired in the hazing scandal. Give him a call, hire him as an extra O-line coach and help this O-line out. We will see you guys next week. Remember to please like and subscribe. Follow us at He's a Giant Pod. Follow me at Queens_guy. Follow Monty at MONTECRI5TO, all on Twitter. Until we see you guys next week, when the Giants are hopefully 1-1 and we figure out what position group we're going over. Have a great week. Go Giants.
Go Giants and eat shit pit.